Thesis: The Anatomy of a Surrender, an introduction to my own transformation. What follows is an attempt to document and understand a profound shift within myself. It's a thesis not for a university, but for my own life, a paper written to deconstruct a single transformative night, the events of that night, born from a difficult conversation, culminated in a dream that served as both a final exam and a graduation ceremony for my soul. For years I have been at war with my outriggers: jealousy, possessiveness, insecurity. My love has been a clenched fist, a desperate attempt to control what I was terrified of losing. This document is the story of that fist finally opening. It is a breakdown of how a lifetime of fear was confronted and released in the theater of my own mind. My central argument, the thesis I am presenting to myself, is this: true love and personal peace are not achieved through control and possession, but through the terrifying and liberating act of surrender. This paper will lay out the raw narrative of that experience, followed by my own analysis of its structure, symbolism, and ultimate meaning for the man I'm trying to become. Part of the narrative, a transcript of the event. This is the story as it happened, the raw material of the experience. I've laid it out here exactly as I've come to understand it, from the conversation that pulled the trigger to the dream that showed me a new way to live, and the awakening that proved it was real. The monologue. Last night I had a deep conversation and I was triggered. My triggers manifested last night in my dream. I dreamt of jealousies, I dreamt of possessiveness. My insecurities became people. My fears became scenarios. What in life I run from became the center stage. Drugs or my vice, love, has been an addiction. My loneliness has always been. In my dream I felt defeat. All my rigors became real entities. In my dream, those triggers became a story I had to walk through. And in my dream, my feelings became my truth. They became my vision, they became my action. They became me, and I became part of my triggers. It's very important to address triggers. Could you understand that if you don't address a trigger, it stays just that, it stays a trigger. It stays loaded, waiting. Last night, for me, that trigger was pulled after my significant other and I finished the mover for the most part. When we finally decided we were done for the night, we sat down and we had conversations, and they're difficult conversations to have for me. It's hard for me because they initiate these old feelings, the ones I've been pushing to get away from. But if something triggers anything within you, it's a trigger. The term trigger, I'm assuming, means it's an initiation. A combustion, it's like a trigger on a gun. You pull it, the hammer comes down instantly, the bullet ignites, and it goes off in whatever direction it's aimed. That's why I understand it means. So these triggers are there. To really understand, you have to know the history. I was with her for 2 intense years where my insecurity and my possessiveness came to a head. And the man I was back then, I ruined that relationship. When it ended, I made a decision. For 2 long years, we were apart. And I did the work, I focused on myself, always holding on to the hope that if I ever got a second chance, I could show her a new man. 2 weeks ago, after 2 years of silence, I made the call. I brought her to my new life in Bisbee, Arizona, and I put it all on the table. In just 2 weeks, a miracle happened. We found our own place. We built this new beginning on a foundation of true partnership. We both signed the lease. Equal partners in this journey. We took everything we had from our separate lives, our own storages, and we did it together. The home became one from our 2 lives. And so last night in our new home, we sat down. And so last night in our new home, we sat down to do the real work. We had our first conversation about our past. We've had these deep conversations a lot, under so many different circumstances. Different places, different moments in our lives, different scenarios, different settings. And they always seem to unlock these emotional vaults inside me. It's like replaying those moments and then getting the same emotions all over again. There's a reason why I used to stay away from those conversations, because they trigger this sadness, this despair, this jealousy that I have, these insecurities, possessiveness. All of that is triggered within these conversations. But what was different last night? What wasn't different was my willingness to have the conversation. I was willing to give it a try, just like every other time, because I've been told. And now more than ever, I understand the importance of allowing another person to have these conversations. It's part of their own personal healing. Whether it's family, friends, or your loved one, they have the right to that space. What was different last night wasn't my willingness, but my approach. Usually I start these conversations guarded. I know what's going to happen inside of me. I've felt it before and I don't like it. So I don't allow my feelings to take shape. I initiate this battle for control because I don't want these feelings to hurt so bad. I don't want to be put in that state. So I put up these walls, these boundaries, these safeguards, and as soon as those safeguards are tapped, when the conversation starts to exceed that comfort zone I've placed, I end up feeling lost, not knowing how to respond. Here's what was different last night. I didn't fight it, I just let the feelings happen. It was an act of surrender, and for the most part, letting those feelings happen left me speechless. It left me with nothing to say. I didn't have excuses for this. It was just me sitting there, listening and allowing my emotions to evolve and show on my face, on my demeanor, and it was hard to allow myself, in that state, to just let my feelings be center stage. I felt it triggered something so deep within me. I felt like I was gonna cry, but these tears that were just hanging at the edge of my eyes, they just stood there, and I believe that because those tears didn't come out, I was able to allow her to continue to talk. I feel that if I let those tears out, it would have put a halt to the conversation. It's like when you're disciplining a child, and that child finally just lets go and starts to cry. Everything stops, but sometimes that leaves conversations unfinished. I took all that raw energy from our talk to bed, and my subconscious got to work building a classroom for me. I had the longest dream. This dream was an evolving dream, a dream that brought these triggers to life. The first scene, we were in the car, and my girl pulls out a pipe. Now, this is not her character, but in the dream she was holding an object tied directly to my deepest vice. The fear that hit me was instant, but it wasn't fear of her, it was fear of myself. I know the power that addiction has over me, and my love for her could become the very thing that pulled me back under. So I ran from the car, from the situation, not from her. It was a choice of self-preservation. Then the dream shifted. The characters became my insecurities, personified, and here my deepest insecurity took center stage. My significant other is a proud black woman, and she's put in so much work to understand her heritage, to understand herself, and I've always felt, in an almost dramatic way, inadequate because I can't be part of that heritage. I'm Mexican, and I've carried this feeling of being an outsider to that part of her world. And so in the dream, this fear, this inadequacy materialized. It took the form of the black men. They were the ones who were with her, the ones who brought the drugs in the dream. And they were the ones who told me that there was another guy, someone she hadn't told me about. They confronted me and her with it. They asked her right in front of me, "Did you tell him you guys fucked 5 times right before you got here?" And that is my deepest fear. For me, that insecurity comes from my life right now. I leave the house for work, I drive 30 minutes away, and there's nothing I can do to know what's going on back home. The fear is that as I leave, someone comes in, and as I come home, they're leaving. That dream was my mind playing out that exact scenario. But it was also a test. The steps I've taken in my life have been about learning not to control what happens outside of my immediate vision, because I shouldn't. A deep sadness washed over me. But the rage of the old me, the man from past dreams who would have fought and crushed them with his hands, It was gone. I didn't fight with my loved one. As she walked away from me, I walked away from her. I didn't chase her, and with the people that were involved, the guys that caused these jealousies, I just told them to walk away. I told them to leave as I left. That's the difference. The difference is that I love her. In my dreams, in person, I love her. And I want her to be a success. Her success, her choice, her life, even if it's not with me. And that was the difference last night. Within my dream, for the first time in a long time, I exhibited love. I was love. Because I saw her choice, I respected her choice. And I walked away in a way that I would not interfere with her next steps. It wasn't a defeat, it was a spiritual release. And then I woke up, she was right next to me, she was in my arms. It's as if everything that I've done in the last couple of years has finally showed its fruit. It was a long 2 years where I wasn't with her, where I made a decision not to interfere with her steps in life, to sit here and just root for her. And at the end of this long 2 years, last night I woke up and she was in my arms. She told me she'd been up all night, cleaning and putting our home together so I could wake up to a peaceful space. The dream had been a final exam of my soul, and waking life was the graduation. Her act of love was the direct answer to the dream's test of fear. It reminds me of a strange principle you hear about in philosophy. This idea of reversed effort or a backward law. The more you desperately try to stay afloat in water, the more you kick and struggle, the more you sink. But when you relax, when you trust the water to hold you, you float effortlessly. The more you try to grab onto love or control, the more it slips through your fingers like water. For years, my love was a clenched fist. I was so terrified of losing her that I squeezed with all my might, trying to control every outcome, and in doing so I forced it all to slip away. But last night, in that dream, I finally relaxed. I finally opened my hand. I surrendered to the current and accepted that I could not force her to be mine. And the beautiful paradox is this: the moment I truly let go, the moment I stopped struggling, I woke up and she was there, not because I earned her, but because I finally stopped trying to possess her. I finally learned how to float. Part E, my own analysis, deconstructing the message. Now that I've laid out the story, I need to break it down. Looking at it from a distance, I can see the architecture of the experience, the way my own subconscious built a lesson for me. The narrative arc as a spiritual journey. I see now that my own story played out in 3 distinct acts. A journey my soul needed to take. That was the catalyst. It was the difficult conversation. It represented bringing the past into the present. All the old baggage was put on the table. Not to create a fight, but for healing. My choice to not put up my usual walls, to just sit and feel it, was the price of admission for what came next. It was an act of surrender even before the dream began. T was the crucible. This was the dream itself. It was the arena where I had to face everything I had been running from. My subconscious didn't pull any punches. It created symbols for my greatest fears. The pipe wasn't just about drugs. It was about my fear of my own past, my vices, and the terrifying idea that love could lead me back to them. And the 2 men, that was the hardest part to unpack. They weren't just random antagonists. They were the living embodiment of my deepest insecurity as a Mexican man. My feeling of being an outsider to my black partner's heritage. A world she is so proud of. My mind cast them in that role and gave them the most brutal lines possible to test my resolve. Playing on my fear of betrayal. The climax was me winning a fight. It was me choosing not to fight at all. It was me choosing love that lets go over a fear that holds on. T was the resolution. This was the awakening. Waking up to find her in my arms wasn't just a happy coincidence. It felt like the universe confirming my choice. The dream was the test and waking life was the result. Her act of love, staying up to make our home beautiful for me, was the physical manifestation of the peace I had finally found within myself. My voice and my intent. In telling this story, I know I use simple words. It's a layman's tone because I'm a layman in this. I'm not a philosopher or a psychologist. I'm just a man trying to understand his own heart. The power of this story for me, isn't in big words, it's in the honesty of the feelings. The symbolism wasn't something I invented to be clever. It was the language my own soul used to speak to me. My goal in breaking it all down like this is to honor that language, to show that I was listening. Conclusion from clenched fist to open hand. This entire experience has solidified a central truth for me. My old way of being, the possessiveness, the jealousy, the need to control, was a clenched fist. I thought by holding on tighter, I could keep what was mine, but all I did was crush the life out of it and ensure it would slip through my fingers. The conversation, the dream, and the awakening have taught me the power of the open hand. It's about trust. It's about letting go. It's about understanding that true love isn't about ownership. It's about wanting the best for someone, even if that best doesn't include you. The paradox I'm now living is that the moment I was finally willing to let her go was the moment I was truly able to have her. This document is my personal record of that shift. It is the story of a fighter learning that some battles are only won by laying down your arms. It's the anatomy of my surrender.